Dalton, or Mr. Jack, we were just discussing the day, July 19th of 2018, the day that you came home. All right, so what were the circumstances whenever you left your jobs? Can you just describe what you told your boss and how was it that you got back to Brooklyn?
I was just outright with him. I told him that I hadn't heard from Mollie in a while, and I'm trying to get other people to find her, and they can't find her, and I just drove my own POV back to Brooklyn.
Your POV being?
No, my personally owned vehicle, sorry, my truck, the one I own.
I think that's your Army maybe kicking in a little bit.
That's the Army kicking in right there.
Okay. So did anyone come back with you from Dubuque?
No.
All right. And do you remember about what time it was that you got home on July 19th, 2018 on Thursday?
It was dark, I'd say about 9 p.m.
Okay. Describe where you went whenever you got home.
I went straight to the house.
Okay, to 622
Yes,
West Des Moines?
to my brother's house.
All right, and describe what you saw there at the house whenever you arrived.
There was like a crowd on the lawn, and then an officer was already there taking statements from people.
Okay. Did you talk to the police?
Yes.
Do you remember the officer that you spoke to?
Matt Simpson. Matt Simpson.
Is he a sheriff's deputy in Poweshiek County?
Yes.
And did you make any other attempts on that evening to contact Mollie?
Yes.
What did you do?
I called her more, texted her more.
Okay. Whenever you would call her, would you get voicemail?
No.
Would you get anything?
No.
All right. Did you have any contact with Mollie Tibbetts?
No.
The following day, did you make attempts to contact her?
I don't remember.
Did you ever join in the search
Yes.
for Mollie? Can you
Yes, I did.
describe what it was that you did?
Me and my brother actually went out that night, and we drove around for a long time, and then we were just kind of checking everywhere that we can do. But then there was a more organized search put on by like the fire department and the police department before the whole thing went through, and then we like sectored out the city and all that fun stuff. And we all
Okay.
took.
Were you a part of that at all?
Yes. I
Okay,
was.
so you joined in to assist?
Yes.
All right. And did you go back to work at Jasper during the time frame that Mollie was missing?
No.
Okay. Did they give you the time off because of that?
Yes.
All right. At this time, I don't have any further questions of Dalton Jack. Thank you.
Defense may cross-examine. Mr. Jack, good morning.
How long is it, again, since you've been in the Army?
I've been in the Army for almost 3 years now.
Okay, what was the date you joined?
November 6, 2018.
So, 3 months after Mollie's discovery, right?
Correct.
So did you ever go back to Jasper Construction to work?
Yes.
What was the decision to go to the Army based upon?
I wanted to pretty much leave for a while
Why?
because I grew up there, she grew up there. It's where we kind of built our relationship, and now she was gone, so
You were heartbroken.
yes.
Mollie was your true love, right?
I would say so, yes.
You had planned on marrying this woman, right?
Yes.
And you were devoted to Mollie, right?
Yes.
People have described it as a true love story, right?
Yes.
Is that how you felt about her?
Yes.
Okay. And you've told the jury here today about your activities in the days leading up to Mollie's disappearance, and I want to explore those a little bit. If I understand you correctly, your testimony today is that on the night of Mollie's disappearance, you were in your hotel room for a bit and then hanging out with the boys, drinking beers, playing games, right?
Correct.
And that's your testimony today, correct?
Yes.
We're clear on that.
Yes.
That's not always the story you've given to the police, though, is it?
I don't know.
Well, did you not tell the police in a previous interview that you spent the night in your room watching movies?
That was what I was, yes.
Okay. Do you recall giving that statement?
Yes.
Okay. When did you give that statement to police?
I don't know the exact time or date that I gave that statement.
Well, let's come at it this way. How many times were you interviewed by police?
A lot.
Okay, more than 3?
Would say so, I guess, yes.
Okay. As I understand it, you first met with Matt Simpson on the 19th, right?
Yes.
And when you talked to Matt Simpson, that was at your home at 622 West Des Moines Street, right?
Yes.
And that was just kind of generally to give him the background of what was going on, right?
Yes.
Now, you told Deputy Simpson that nothing really seemed to be out of place. Do you recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that, but I could imagine that I did say that, yes.
Have you reviewed any recordings or any reports relating to Deputy Simpson?
I reviewed the report, yes.
Okay. If Deputy Simpson's report says that's what you said, would you quibble with that?
No.
Okay. Now, do you recall having a conversation with Deputy Simpson saying that the bed was tousled and unmade, which was ironic since Mollie was the last one in it?
Again, I don't recall that.
Okay. But if Deputy Simpson says that, would you doubt that you made that statement?
No.
And then you talked with Detective Steve Kivy of the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office, I believe the next day, right?
Yes.
And that was just in his truck. He's trying to help find Mollie as well, right?
Yes.
Do you recall that conversation?
I don't recall every detail of that conversation, no.
Okay, do you recall telling him what you were doing in Dubuque the night before?
No.
But you do recall, because your recollection's been refreshed by Mr. Brown, that on the 23rd, or strike that, on the 18th, you got a Snapchat from Mollie, and you opened it around 10:30 p.m., right?
Yes.
Okay. You also told someone that the last time someone saw Mollie was around 10:30 p.m. that night as well, right?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall saying that to someone?
No.
Do you recall telling police officers that you also went to bed both nights while you were in Dubuque around 10:30?
I don't recall that either.
Okay. Well, you were interviewed a final time by officers, and it was on July 27, 2018. Do you recall that interview?
I don't recall every detail of that interview, but I remember the interview, yes.
Okay. And that interview involved the agent Matt George. You recall that interview?
Yes.
You recall it involved an individual named Lara Ziesler?
I don't recall who that is.
Okay. You recall telling the agents that on the 18th of July, the night that you say Mollie, we know Mollie disappeared, and that you were in Dubuque, that you finished work around 6:30 p.m. You recall telling them that on the 27th?
No.
Do you recall telling the agents that you showered, and that night you watched Rush Hour 1 in your room?
Is this the night of the 18th?
Yes.
Then yes.
Okay. Now, your testimony today is that you were out with the boys playing games and drinking beers, right?
Yes.
So you told the officers on the 27th of July a different story, right?
I suppose so.
And if I showed you the report, would it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
You also told officers on that same interview information that you withheld before, right?
Correct.
And that information that you withheld before was that you'd had a relationship with a woman other than Mollie, right?
Correct.
objects this outside the scope.
Overruled.
Who was that woman?
Her name was Jordan Lamb.
And what did you tell officers the reason you withheld that information?
I didn't deem it necessary.
You didn't deem it necessary.
I didn't think that it was pertinent to the case.
So you didn't think it was pertinent to tell law enforcement officers that you having an affair on your true love was not pertinent to the case, right?
I was 19 years old.
So what?
Objects is argumentative.
Sustained.
Explain to me what you mean by that.
I was 19 years old. It was the beginning of the relationship, and I screwed up one time. Mollie knew about it, and we got past it.
So it was the beginning of the relationship that you had an affair on Mollie?
Yes.
So give me a time frame as to when you had this affair on Mollie. What date?
I don't remember the exact dates, but it was about not even a year after we started dating.
So give me a date.
I don't remember the exact date.
Give me an approximate date, please.
August of 2017, I think it would be, or
Okay.
2016.
All right, because the officers talked to you about it, and you gave them kind of the details into how Mollie learned about this, right?
Yes.
Mollie was upset that you cheated on her, right?
Yes.
And you gave them the date of the fall of 2017, didn't you?
Yes,
So
I think.
again, this relationship that you had with Jordan Lamb, tell us how it evolved. How did it start?
I don't remember.
You started Snapchatting her, right?
That sounds about right.
Well, am I right or am I wrong?
Yes, you're right.
You started sending her Snapchats. Why'd you start sending her Snapchats?
Why does anybody do anything that's wrong?
I'm asking you that question.
I don't know.
You have no idea why you start sending a woman Snapchats?
Correct.
Well, you wanted to get with her, right?
I imagine that would be yes.
Okay. Oh, I don't want you to imagine. I want you to tell me why you did.
Yes.
You wanted to strike up a relationship with Jordan Lamb, didn't you?
Yes.
And this was in February, or strike that, this was late 2017, early 2018, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't 2016 like you just told me.
I told you that I don't remember the dates.
Okay, but now you do, right?
Correct.
And you know that now because you've been confronted with these dates by officers, right?
Yes.
And you were confronted with these dates by Mollie, right?
Yes.
So you do remember the dates right now, don't you?
Yes.
2 minutes ago, you didn't remember the dates, right?
You're talking about objects being argumentative.
Sustained.
So these Snapchats, the reason you use Snapchat was that you sent a message and then it disappears, right?
The reason I use Snapchat is because that was my primary form of communication with a lot of people.
Okay. But also you use it because you send a message and it disappears and can't be seen by people who get on your phone, right?
That wasn't what I stated in my previous statement.
Okay. So you're telling me that the reason you use Snapchat had nothing to do with the fact that Snapchat disappears after you send a message?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in these Snapchats, you're telling Jordan things like, she's the most attractive girl you ever met, right?
I don't remember the content of the Snapchats.
No object to hearsay and relevance.
Sustained.
As to what ground?
Hearsay.
Where are they? in these Snapchats, this is around the time Mollie was getting ready to go visit her dad in California in March of 2018, right?
I do not recall.
Okay. And were you not telling Jordan that you were going to break up with Mollie?
I also do not recall.
And you were pressing Jordan pretty hard for her to be your girlfriend, right?
I also do not recall.
Okay. During this time, you had sexual relations with Jordan, right?
Yes.
You never told Mollie that, did you?
Mollie knew.
When did Mollie know?
Mollie knew when she confronted me about it.
And how did Mollie find out that you were having sexual relations with Jordan Lamb?
She went through my phone while I was asleep.
She went through your phone?
Correct.
When?
When I was asleep one night.
Was this before or after Jordan Lamb busted you by telling Mollie?
That was during. That's the reason she went through my phone.
Okay. So you'd agree with me that Jordan Lamb messaged Mollie to share with her what you had been doing with Jordan, right?
Yes.
And Jordan told Mollie that you were trying to get with her, right?
I don't object. He's going to have no basis for that knowledge as to what Jordan told Mollie.
Sustained.
Was there information on your phone about Jordan and Mollie talking?
I do not recall.
Okay. But again, you didn't seem to think that this relationship with Jordan was relevant, right?
Correct.
Now, when you told Agent George about this, he told you he wanted to set the reset button with you, right?
I don't understand the question.
Agent George told you it was time to set the reset button with you, and he wanted you to be 100% truthful, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. You also then were asked by Agent George if there's anything else that you remembered about that day or that time in your life. You recall that question from Agent George?
I don't recall.
Do you recall from Agent George conversation that you and he were talking about some mysterious man that you had just seen in Brooklyn?
Yes.
And describe that mysterious man that you told them about on July 27th.
I believe that I was mowing the lawn and he just walked by. He was tall, wearing baggy pants with a chain. That's what I remember currently.
Dressed all in black.
If that's what the report says, then yes.
And you had just recalled that day as well?
I don't know.
Okay. You agree with me, you'd never given that report of a mysterious man wearing black walking around Brooklyn before July 27th?
The report of the man walking around Brooklyn was after Mollie had already disappeared.
Okay. Would you agree with me that you probably knew Mollie's running routes better than anyone?
No.
Who would know better?
I don't know who would know better, but I barely knew Mollie's running routes.
Well, you testified on direct that you knew her running routes,
I do know her running routes, yes.
but now it's just you barely knew her running routes.
I didn't know that she ran out to the blacktop.
Okay. Now, get cue up. I'm going to try to show you what open technology works, Mr. Jack. What's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit Q for identification. Now you turned over your phone for examination, right?
Yes.
And that phone was examined, right?
Yes.
Was it returned to you?
Yes.
Were you given a copy of the report?
No.
Have you seen the report?
No.
Okay. We're having some technology problems today. Windows P. There it is.
Yes.
It's your testimony, Mr. Jack, that on July 18, okay, the day Mollie goes missing, I just want to be clear on timeline here, that you texted her that morning, "Good morning, beautiful,"
Correct.
and did you text throughout the day with her?
No.
Pardon me?
One other time.
On the 18th.
Yes.
And do you recall texting with her around dinner time?
No.
She didn't ask you if you had a better day today?
I don't recall that, no.
So this is the day your love of your life goes missing, and you don't recall that.
No.
Did you not go back and try to recreate the day that your love of your life goes missing in an attempt to maybe figure out how she was wound up missing?
From the moment that it started, I knew that I was not a investigator of any sort.
Okay, but even for your own peace of mind, you didn't go back and try to recreate this?
My own peace of mind came by trying to get her back.
Okay, did you not go back and look at your phone and look at your text messages and your Snapchats to just kind of rehash the days leading up to this?
No.
Not once?
No.
Okay. Well, what is your understanding of the time that Mollie would have been likely abducted?
I don't understand the question.
What is your understanding of the time of day on the 18th that Mollie was likely abducted?
Her normal running time was what I assumed.
Okay, so no one's told you, you haven't done any investigation as to what time of day Mollie was abducted? Exactly.
Every detail of the case I wanted omitted from me because I don't want to know.
You don't want to know?
No.
Okay. All right, let's back up a little further then. July 16th is a Monday, right?
Yes.
We know that because the 18th was a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Monday you didn't work in Dubuque?
Monday I worked in Dubuque.
Okay. So Monday night was a typical night. You were hanging out with the boys in the room, right?
Yes.
Who's your roommate?
Brandon Gordy.
And Brandon's a young man you grew up with?
I didn't grow up with Brandon Gordy.
He's from Brooklyn though, right?
Yes. But he was older than I was.
Okay. Did you text and Snapchat Mollie that night?
Yes.
What time did you go to bed?
I don't recall.
Around 10:30? Sound about right?
Sure.
Is that
Yes.
your normal bedtime?
Yes.
Tuesday, you get up. What time did you go to work that day?
Same time as always, 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there.
Okay. And you worked all day until about 6 o'clock that night, right?
Yes.
Long day.
Yes.
Now, is that the day that someone sprayed your car with some sealant?
It was either Tuesday or Monday, but yes.
Made you pretty upset.
Yes.
So upset that you wanted to quit, right?
Yes.
You wanted to go home, see Mollie, right?
Yes.
But you didn't. Why not?
Because the pay, benefits, what else was I going to do?
Okay. Mollie talked you out of it, right?
Yes.
And that night, did you hang out with the guys drinking beer and?
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, if you told investigators you drank a bunch of beer that night and got drunk and was hungover Wednesday morning, would that
I
sound
believe
about
it.
right?
Yes.
And that makes sense because you were angry and probably drank one or two too many beers, right?
Yes.
Who sprayed your truck?
I don't remember who sprayed my truck, but it was somebody on one of the other crews.
Okay. And you were upset with him.
Yes.
You told Mollie you were upset with him.
Yes.
Okay. It was a Hispanic gentleman, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And then on Wednesday, you went back to work and another normal day, right?
Yes.
And you don't recall Mollie texting you at the end of the day and asking you if you had a better day?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you don't recall texting Mollie at 8:18 or 8:19 that night?
No, I don't.
You don't recall sending her a text message saying, my phone data straight up won't work?
No, I don't.
Okay. And it's your testimony that you opened a Snapchat from Mollie at 10:30 p.m., right?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that the Snapchat records that were retrieved by investigators would more accurately show those times than your recollection?
Absolutely.
Can you think of any reason in your mind why those records would show that you opened that last Snapchat at 1:30 a.m. on the 19th?
I was just awake. Woke up in the middle of the night.
Okay, so if they show 1:30 a.m., that's accurate, right?
If that's what the records show, yes.
Okay, so your recollection of that could be faulty.
Yes.
You have no recollection of texting Mollie at 8:18 p.m. on July 18th saying, my data straight up won't work.
I don't.
The last message you sent your girlfriend on the day she was abducted.
Correct.
Okay. Now, on your phone, you have a number of apps, right?
Yes.
You have an Apple iPhone, right?
Yes.
On that Apple iPhone, you have things like Find My iPhone.
Yes.
Tell me what Find My iPhone is.
Find My iPhone, if you have paired the iPhones, allows you to find the other iPhone.
Okay, so, like I have kids, and I can do Find My iPhone to find my kids and where they are at any given time. Did you have the same thing with Mollie?
No.
So, you had Find My iPhone. Do you have anybody else on Find My iPhone that you could locate?
No. The way Find My iPhone works is if you're on the same phone bill, then you can do it, or if you pair them, you can do it. Me and Mollie never paired, and we weren't on the same phone bill.
Okay. Would there be any reason why you were on Find My iPhone on July 18th, 2018?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Well, who is on your Find My iPhone that you can locate at that time?
Nobody.
Okay. You also have Progressive for a insurance company, right?
Not anymore, but at the time I did, yes.
Okay. And that application was on your phone as well, right?
Yes.
And that app would keep track of how you drove?
Yes.
And if you drove well, like you didn't speed or stop short or get in an accident, you would get rewarded for good driving behavior, right?
Correct.
Did you check that app often?
No.
But it would automatically kick in if your vehicle was on the move. Is that your understanding?
Correct, yes.
Do you recall checking your Progressive app that night?
No, but I rarely swept up and closed my apps on my phone.
Okay. But your understanding is of the Progressive app, they call it Snapshot, right?
Yes.
Snapshot kicks in when your vehicle is on the move, right?
Yes.
And it's your vehicle, no one else's, right?
No.
And you're telling me that your vehicle on July 18th, 2018 was not on the move?
My,
9 o'clock that night, you were drinking beer with buddies and playing bags, right?
correct.
You also have an app on your phone called Maps, right?
Yes.
Now, Maps, you can get directions or drop a pin and drive to someone's location, right?
Yes.
You've done that before, right?
I've used maps to get directions, yes.
Would there be any reason why you were using Apple Maps on your phone in the evening of July 18th, 2018, after, let's say, 10 p.m.?
Not that I can think of.
If your phone activity shows that you were using Apple Maps that night, can you think of any reason why?
That I would have not closed it.
Okay. When was the last time you would have used Apple Maps to your knowledge?
To get up to Dubuque.
Okay. Now, who is Ulysses Felix?
Ulysses Felix was the, he's a kid that worked with Scott. Not worked with Scott, went to school with Scott.
You ever met Ulysses Felix?
Yes.
Did you know Ulysses Felix prior to Molly's death?
I knew of him, yes.
Pardon me?
I knew of him, yes.
Okay. Did you know where he lived?
No.
Judge, I'm going to object again to this particular line of questioning being outside the scope of direct.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Did you know where he worked?
No.
He's also a friend of Jake Tibbetts too, right?
Yes.
And this is the same Ulysses Felix that after Molly's death wound up living with Laura, right?
Correct.
Let's talk about you, young man. You consider yourself to have a temper?
Not anymore.
You did, though, at one time?
Yes.
Pretty angry young man?
When I was about 17, 16, yes.
Okay, so how old were you when Molly died?
20.
When you're 17, 16, tell us about the temper that Dalton Jack had.
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance.
Overruled. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Tell me about the temper of the 16, 17-year-old Dalton Jack.
It was not good. It was short-fused.
Like to fight?
Yes.
In fact, one time you choked a man out, right?
I'm going to object. This is improper character evidence, specific instance of conduct. This is not relevant.
Sustained on that ground.
But you've been known to fight, right?
Yes.
And when you fought, your friends were right there with you, weren't they?
Yes.
They all had each other's backs, right?
Yes.
Those friends included Dylan Eichhorn.
Dylan Eichhorn was older than me, so no.
How much older was Dylan?
Dylan graduated with my older brother who was just in here.
Okay. You know Jackson Eichhorn?
Yes.
Is he a friend?
No. He graduated with my younger brother.
Okay. But you all know each other, right?
Yes.
You work with Dylan, right?
Yes.
Around the time that Molly was abducted or died, you told her a number of times that you thought you were depressed, right?
Correct.
And that manifested itself with anger, you said, right?
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance again.
Sustained.
Three days before Molly ends up missing, she told you that she was upset and sad because of your relationship with Jordan, right?
Yes.
The day before she ends up missing, you learned that she and Hope Beck had talked about your relationship with yet another woman named Tara, right?
Objections calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't recall that at all.
You don't know that?
No.
Either you don't know it or you don't recall it.
Don't recall it.
Okay. You told police that they asked you if Molly was jealous. You told it that there was a woman named Tara as well, right?
If that's what the report says, and yes.
I'm not asking what the report says. I'm asking you what you said.
I don't recall.
You don't recall telling the police about Tara?
No.
Was there a Tara?
Yes.
Okay, so there's another woman that you had at least some conversations with, right?
Yes.
And that was during your relationship with Molly.
That was simultaneous to starting the relationship with Molly.
Okay. And who told you, or got a hold of you first as Molly's friend, about whether or not Molly was missing?
Emily Fenner.
Also, an old relationship of yours.
Yes.
Also a woman who made Molly jealous, right?
Objection. This calls for speculation.
Sustained.
You and Molly had conversations in the weeks and month leading up to her abduction about Emily asking about you, right?
I don't recall that at all.
There wasn't time where Emily would be at parties and stuff and ask about you?
Judge, I'm not object. Calls for speculation, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. Emily Fenner, when she texted you, because that's what she did, she texted you, right?
She called me. She texted
Okay.
me and called me, yes.
When she texted you, she asked you a very specific question, didn't she?
I don't recall.
She asked you, Dalt, because she called you Dalt, right?
Yes.
And she said, Dalt, is Mollie alive? Didn't she?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't recall the text messages.
Okay. You'd agree with me that's an odd question to ask someone?
It's argumentative, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
How long was it before Mollie was abducted that she started wearing her promise ring again?
I don't recall.
Was it a week?
I don't recall.
Okay. What have you done to prepare yourself for testimony today, sir?
I got off a flight yesterday, so very little.
Okay. You know, we're here on a charge of murder for the love of your life, right?
Yes.
And I'm getting a lot of, I don't recall out of you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you want the man who did this brought to justice, right?
Yes.
And you haven't thought about this and poured it over in your mind to have every detail remembered?
When I was asked if I wanted to be here voluntarily, I said absolutely not. So no.
So you did not want to be here voluntarily?
No, I didn't want to be in the same room as your defendant there.
Oh. So you didn't want to come give testimony to get justice for your love of your life?
No.
You wouldn't be here to fight for her?
No.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Brown, any redirect?
Dalton, let's be clear. You cooperated with me prior to trial to prepare you here today, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. We talked on the phone a number of times, isn't that right?
Yes.
The reason why we wouldn't have met in person is because you're in the Army stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Yes.
Do you remember a time when this case was pending, when you had been deployed overseas?
Yes.
Where did you go? Can you tell us?
Iraq.
All right. And whenever you were in Iraq, you communicated with me, correct?
Yes.
And it was mainly about the case, about when it was going to be scheduled, and that type of thing. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So you've always wanted to assist and do what you can. Is that right?
Sustained. Rephrase the question, please.
I can do that. Describe your level of, you cooperated with us, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And we sent you some reports, correct, to review? I'll rephrase it. What did we,
Okay, hold
sorry.
on a second. Sustained. Rephrase.
Yeah, what did we send you to review for this case?
You
Mr.
sent me
Jack?
2 reports.
All right. And did we sit down with you to prepare you?
Yes.
All right. Tell us the reason again why you don't want to be sitting in this room right now.
Because of the defendant being here.
Okay, and why?
I'm obviously not his biggest fan.
Okay. You were in a relationship with Mollie Tibbetts, correct?
Yes.
Is that why you don't want to be sitting with this man right here?
Correct.
Because you think he's responsible for her death, isn't that right?
Objection, call for speculation, invades the province of the jury.
Well, I'll sustain that, but I'm going to allow Mr. Brown to rephrase the question if he so chooses.
Why do you not want to be sitting in this room with that guy, with this man?
I wholeheartedly believe he's guilty.
All right, let's talk about hang on just one second. So whenever you went to Dubuque with Jasper Construction on the week that included July 18th, tell us how many people would you have been around that week that would have known you?
That would have known me?
Yes.
Oh, the entirety of my crew, which was 7 people, and then there was a few on the other crew that I had worked with before, so I'd say probably 10 to 12 that knew me.
Okay. And in order to get from your home to Dubuque or to the job location, did you have to use any apps or applications on your phone?
Absolutely.
What was that?
Maps, for sure.
Okay. And on your phone, can you describe for the jury whether or not your phone keeps your trips in its memory?
Yes, it does.
All right. So if you would have entered the address that you were going to, the bridge or wherever it was you were working on the week that included July 18th, would that have been in your phone?
Yes.
And would you have utilized that to get to your job site?
Yes.
All right. Bottom line, Mr. Jack, did you ever come home between the time you left for your job on the week that included July 18th and when you got back on July 19th? Did you ever come back to Brooklyn, Iowa?
I did not.
All right. The relationship with Jordan, Mr. Freeze asked you about that. Do you recall that?
Yes.
How long did that last?
About a day.
Okay. Now, did Mollie Tibbetts find out about that relationship?
Yes.
And had you two worked through that?
Yes.
Did you ever break up over it?
No.
To your knowledge, did any of Mollie's family members know about your relationship with Jordan?
They do now.
Okay. Did they know it back then?
Not at the time, no.
Well, let me be clear. Not at the time that it was happening, right?
No, not at the time that it was happening.
Okay. Did they find out about it later?
Yes.
All right. Have you maintained a good relationship with Mollie's parents, Laura and Rob,
Yes.
despite the fact that you had had this brief relationship with
Objection,
Jordan?
relevance.
Let him finish the
sorry.
question. Overruled. Go ahead, the witness may answer if he knows.
I'm sorry, can you say the question again?
Yeah. Did you maintain a good relationship with Rob Tibbetts and Laura Calderwood, Mollie's parents, after this knowledge about Jordan came out?
Yes.
All right. It was in the past.
Yes.
Do you know the defendant, Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Have you ever met him at all prior to July 18th of 2018?
No.
Did you know he drove a black Chevy Malibu?
No.
Had you ever had access to the black Chevy Malibu driven by Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
To your knowledge, did Mollie Tibbetts have any type of relationship with Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
To your knowledge, did Mollie Tibbetts have access to the black Chevy Malibu driven by the defendant, Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
No connection between either you or Mollie and the defendant. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Freeze, any recross?
Mr. Jack, despite communicating with Mr. Brown from Iraq, despite preparing with Mr. Brown while you're here, you still don't recall a lot of the pertinent facts, right?
Yes.
And that's because you're choosing to?
No, it's because it wasn't in the 2 reports that I received.
Oh, okay. And you agree the facts you don't recall are ones that are not advantageous to you, right?
Judge, I'm going to object as argumentative.
That's sustained.
as early as a month before Mollie was abducted, you two were talking about breaking up, right?
I do recall that, and yes.
Okay. So things weren't all rosy between you and Mollie in the last 30 days before her abduction, were they?
No.
And you didn't like the fact that if Mollie was going to be leaving you and maybe going with someone else, that bothered you.
That would bother anybody, but yes.
Yeah. And it wasn't the first time that bothered you, because you two were supposed to move in together in October 2017.
Correct.
And when she told you she was going to move in with friends, that got you angry as well.
Yes.
You didn't want her moving in with friends. You wanted her moving in with you.
I was upset that she had went back on the plan that I had been going with for the last year and a half after that.
Okay.
A year
It
and a
made you
half,
very
year.
angry,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Did you ever tell Mollie that you didn't like other men looking at her?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay. Okay. Sure about that?
Objection, Judge. Again, he's answered the question.
It's overruled. He can clarify if he needs to. Go ahead.
Sure about that?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Brown, are we done with this witness?
Yes, we are.
Okay, Mr. Jack, thank you for being here. You're excused.
Your Honor, just for the record, Mr. Jack is likely to be recalled by the defense, so he remains under subpoena.
Judge, we've already addressed this with the defense. We understand that, and he understands that.
Okay,
So,
all right.
yeah, there's no need to advise him of it now.
Right.
All right, the state may call its next witness.
I'll go get him.
Affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Okay. You'll be seated right over there if you would, sir. Mr. Brown, you can proceed when you're ready.
It's Mr. Claver. Sorry.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Mr. Claver. Sorry about that. State may proceed.
Would you state your name, please?
Matthew William Simpson,
And who is your employer?
Powashik County Sheriff's Office.
What do you do for the sheriff's office?
I'm a patrol deputy
And how long have you held that position?
since 2009.
Can you describe your training and experience as it pertains to your employment?
Graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in 1999 with previous employment before getting hired by Powashik County, and then multiple continuing training.
Do you have other law enforcement experience
Yes, I do. I had 10 years with Henry County Sheriff's Office.
as a deputy?
Yes,
Are you a certified peace officer in the state of Iowa?
I am.
Deputy Simpson, what do your duties entail with the Powashik County Sheriff's Office?
Duties are general patrol, investigations, and I also help with the sex offender registry.
And were you on duty on July 19th, 2018?
I was.
And what shift were you working that day?
It'd be the night shift. It's 4 p.m. to 4 a.m.
And did you receive a missing person call when you were working that shift?
I did.
And can you describe that call for me?
I was called to the house of Blake Jack. I believe it was 622 West Des Moines Street in Brooklyn, Iowa, for a missing person.
And do you recall the approximate time that that report came in?
I believe it was 5:56 p.m.
Is Brooklyn in Powashik County?
It is.
And did you respond to that call?
I did.
And who was on the scene when you first arrived?
Blake Jack and I believe his girlfriend Allie, along with a couple other people that weren't identified.
You You recall the approximate time that you arrived at the residence?
I don't recall approximate time.
And do you know who was living at 622 West Des Moines Street at that time?
It was Blake Jack, his girlfriend Allie, and Blake's brother Dalton. And I believe Mollie Tibbetts had been staying there as well.
And who is identified as missing?
Mollie Tibbetts.
When was the last reported communication that anybody had with Mollie?
I believe I talked to her mom, Laura Calderwood, and she had conversation with her the previous night at 5:30 for a conversation about having supper. I believe that was the 18th.
And did you go inside the residence?
I did.
What did you observe in the residence?
A normal farmhouse where four 20-something, two couples were living. It wasn't unkept, but it was, dishes in the sink, just a typical teenager house.
Did you find Mollie Tibbetts at the residence?
I did not.
Did you see any sign of a struggle?
I did not.
Were there dogs at the house?
They had dogs that were pinned up in the basement.
And did you go to the basement to investigate?
I did.
What did you see when you were there?
I found the dogs pinned into a room. There was some dog poop on the floor. Blake had told me that was common. That the dogs were pinned up if anybody was out of the home. If somebody was in the home, they'd be let free.
Anything else of note that you discovered in the house?
I don't believe so. I'd looked in her room where she'd stayed with Dalton when they were home. There was nothing of consequences in the house. They advised me the doors were usually left unlocked. We did find a freshly delivered package at the front door. I believe it was FedEx that had dropped that off, and there was one by the side door, by the garage, that was delivered by the post office.
Did you seize any evidence?
I don't believe so at that time.
Was anything noted as missing from 622 West Des Moines Street?
I don't believe so.
And did you go anywhere else to further your investigation aside from 622 West Des Moines Street?
I went to the home of Laura Calderwood, where Mollie had also stayed.
What's the address there?
I believe it's 114 Bear Creek Drive.
In Brooklyn.
It is in Brooklyn.
And was anything noted as missing from that residence?
Laura recalled that her running shoes and earbuds were missing.
Did you do anything else to attempt to locate Mollie on July 19th?
I had dispatch ping her cell phone number. I was advised later that it was either off or in a roam state. I'd contacted my sheriff and also later contacted our investigator, Steve Kivy.
Did anyone report having seen Mollie on July 18th, 2018?
I was advised, I believe it was Blake that stated one of the neighbors had seen her on the 18th. And I later spoke with that neighbor, Nate Hopwood, about seeing her the day prior.
What was Mollie reported to have been doing?
Running past the residential area.
And that was on July 18th?
Yes.
How long were you in Brooklyn during your investigation?
I believe probably a couple hours. I'm not sure on specific time.
Did you ever contact Deputy Steve Kivy?
I did.
And who is he?
He's the investigator for the Poweshiek County Sheriff's Office.
Did you have any other involvement in this case after you conducted the initial investigation?
I did not.
And why is that?
The following day, I was leaving on vacation, so I was out of the area for an extended period of time, and then my duties didn't bring me back into the case.
Thank you, Deputy. I have no further questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Claver. Defense may cross-examine.
So, sir, you received this call, and it's probably not unusual to receive a call that someone's can't be located. Is that right?
Correct.
Typically, it doesn't end up like this, and it ends up that it's closed fairly quickly. Is that right?
Correct.
Here, you respond and you go directly to the 622 Des Moines Street house. Is that right?
That's right.
When you get there, describe what you see.
A house sitting back from the roadway. There was, I would guess, 6 people there other than Blake Jack and his girlfriend at the time, Allie. There was starting to be a little bit of a commotion because they're worried about their friend.
So these people, and they're not disorderly, but they're worried and frantic. Is that right?
Correct.
So your job, first of all, is to kind of make everybody calm and to deal with what is a high conflict and emotional situation. Is that right?
Correct.
Was there anybody that was sort of a lead person that you talked with?
At that point, it was Blake. He was home at the time.
All right, and Blake conveyed the information of what was going on. Is that right?
Correct.
When's the first time that you spoke with Dalton Jack?
It had been later that evening.
So he was not home yet, is that right?
Correct. I was advised he was in Dubuque driving home.
Describe your first contact with Dalton Jack.
Normal for somebody that, boyfriend finds out his girlfriend's missing. He's concerned.
Was he crying?
I don't recall.
Was he talkative?
I don't recall.
Did he tell you when he last spoke with Mollie?
I believe he said he'd gotten a Snapchat.
And what time was that Snapchat at?
He'd opened it at 10:30 the night before.
Did he tell you when the last time that he spoke with her via text message?
I don't recall text message.
No further questions, thank you.
Mr. Claver, anything of this witness?
No questions, Your Honor.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you for being here. You're excused.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, we'll take our lunch recess at this time. Before we do so, I want to remind you of your admonition. Make sure you're not discussing the case with anyone. Make sure you're not doing any type of independent research. Make sure you're not exposing yourself to any media. We will be in recess until 1:15. Similar, I would ask you remain seated until the court attendant tells you you can leave. That'll be shortly, but just remain seated for a few more minutes, and you can leave your notebooks where they are.